today can go sideways in an instant. What's here today can be gone tomorrow. We live in a world full of uncertainty. Are you ready to survive? This is the Weathered Soul.
Hey guys, how you doing? You got Bruce, aka the Weathered Soul, here on the Weathered Soul. And after a completely just abominable live podcast that I had Sunday, I had to come back and I had to redo it. And I want to apologize to you guys. I'm probably doing a cardinal sin by apologizing that I put on a really bad podcast on Sunday. But after, I usually after I get done with my podcast, I'll sit down and I'll take a look at it, listen to it, and edit it. And there was so many things that were wrong with the podcast that I just had to come back and I had to redo it. So I want to give you quality content to listen to here and quality content to see. So one of the things is that I hate, not being able to run my software right and clicking in and out of things. I muted the mic and sometimes I didn't come back with the mic, and it was just a terrible mistake on my part. And I really apologize for it, but I really want to make it up to you. So, hey, here I am. I'm live here tonight. It's, Monday, 9/27/2022, September 27, 2022. And this is episode number 6 of the Weathered Soul. And the name of this podcast, ironically, is going to be Jack is a Jerk and Paul is a Pompous. Well, you know what I mean. Anyway, who I'm referring to is Jack Spirko and Paul Wheaton. And both of them are actually really influential guys, in my circle right now, what I'm doing with homesteading and prepping and permaculture and things like that. They are really influential in my life right now of teaching me and mentoring me on how to do things around my homestead, because I call my little suburban house that I have here in Gilroy a homestead. And that's exactly what it is. It is homestead. And I'm telling you what, without these two guys, I would actually know what to do, but it's easier when you have somebody instructing you who has done these things over and over again. They have tried them, they have failed, they have tried them again, they have succeeded, and things like that. And I'm telling you what, if I didn't have those guys around, even like Jason Stapleton, these guys are the ones that are superfluous in teaching, Bruce here, aka the Weathered Soul, on how to do things. And hopefully that, they're here and I'm somewhere down here, and some of you that really don't know anything about, homesteading or prepping or permaculture, or even farther down the way. And I'm hoping that some of that experience that I've gotten from these gentlemen here will rub off on you, and then you can get started on your way to developing your own homestead, to be prepped up a little bit and to know a little bit about permaculture. So we're going to jump right into this right now, but I just want to let you know, get a couple things out of the way and pay some bills for myself. And I am one of my first mentors was Jason Stapleton. Jason Stapleton is superfluous in teaching me how to do these podcasts. And unfortunately, I didn't take a whole lot of his advice this last Sunday, but we belong to a place called the Nomad Network. And the Nomad Network was specifically made for Jason and his followers and anybody who wants to learn how to start a business, how to run a business, how to get started in entrepreneurial business. Right now is the best time in the world to start a business. If you go to mynomadnetwork.app/sign up/7YPNC4, which is my code. You can get there, and you know what? Everything that he does there right now is free. And I'm telling you, when I'm talking free, I mean free. The only thing he's going to do is email you a newsletter. That's it. He's not going to ask you for any money. He's not going to ask you to do anything else other than consume his content. And he has been doing this content for like a decade now. It is fantastic stuff. So if you have any inkling in wanting to start a business, even if you just want to network with a bunch of people that might have the same thing in common that you do. We have artists, we have musicians, we have podcasters, we have financial experts, we have horticultural experts, we have permaculture experts. you name it, there's probably someone there that you can hang out with. And also, I'm a distributor for Plexus products, and Plexus products is what I'm on right now. It's plant-based supplements, probiotics. That's what I do. We have a great combo right now called Reset. And whether you want to focus on healthy weight management, nurturing the balanced gut biome, or establish a wholesome eating habits, reaching to your wellness goals is difficult when your body is out of balance. And Plexus Reset is a 3-day supported fast designed to revitalize your system with a metabolic reset while providing optimal nutrition so that you can support your wellness goals and set the stage for your enhanced results. So if you want to reimagine your health, if you want to remove the roadblocks, if you want to reset your course, let me tell you right now, Plexus is the way you want to go. And you can get there to my site, plexusworldwide.com/the weathered soul. And you can get there and you can find out what Plexus is all about. And I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't doing this product called Ease. And since I got back from my fishing trip 2 weeks ago, I was laying on this $70 cot that I bought. And believe me, if you've been on a cot for a couple of days, you know that it's not the most comfortable. Well, I have bad shoulders and I must have laid on it the wrong way or something. But for the last 2 weeks, my shoulders have just been bothering me. Plexus has a great product called Ease capsules, and it is an anti-inflammatory, all plant-based and all natural. And let me tell you, my wife gave me 2 of those last night, a little rub down, and I'm telling you what, I'm like 100, almost 200% better. I'm not totally cured. I still have a little bit of stiffness and stuff like that, but it's not anywhere near as it was last night. I'm telling you right now, go over there right now to my site, plexusworldwide.com/the weathered soul/home, and just find out what it's all about. I'm telling you right now. Also, I am a Bitcoin fanatic. www.swanbitcoin.com / also known as TWS. You can go and start your journey on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is on sale right now, guys. Let me tell you something about Bitcoin right now. Back in the day when Bitcoin first got started, it was $1, $2, $4, $100, whatever. It rose up and it came back down in price. Right now, it went up to 60,000. Now it's down to about 20,000 right now. It is on sale. If there's any time to get on board with Bitcoin, it is now. And you can get there. Swan is the best way to accumulate Bitcoin with an automatic recurring and instant buys using your bank account or wires up to $10 million. Join today and get $10 of free Bitcoin in your account. Go to swanbitcoin.com / also known as TWS. And I'm telling you right now, I'm a happy man with just stacking sats. So that's what I'm all about. So let's get back into the show right now. We can talk all about what's going on in the world right now. We got a problem with, inflation. We have a problem with, the elections are coming up. The Ukraine-Russian war is heating up like, it's going to go nuclear, right? Something like that. And then immigration is, we got this thing on the border. All those things, are designed to keep you in fear. And I don't want to keep you in fear. In this podcast, what I want to do is I want to lift you guys up. I want to lift you up out of this fear and get you on the right road of trying to use the resources that you have around you to enhance your life and enhance your family and be able to provide for you and your family. Because if you want to provide for your community and help out everyone around you, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And that's what permaculture, homesteading, and prepping is all about. And like I said, I can sit here and I can gripe, like I used to, in prior podcasts, and gripe about the news and gripe about politics and gripe about the World Economic Forum and gripe about all kinds of other things. But it's really useless unless I give you some answers to what people are really looking for. And what people are looking for is answers on, hey, I don't want to depend on the government. The government's not going to give me everything I need. So I need something to lift myself up, to lift my family up, to lift everything up and try to get ourselves off of this island that we have of dependence on the government right now. And I don't want to get onto a whole bunch of blah, 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 blah about the government. But I have chosen to take my 6,500 square feet that I have here in Gilroy, California, and turn it into a homestead. And that means I'm growing some of my own food. I'm recycling a whole bunch of stuff of my life back into my soil, back into my home, and trying to decrease my carbon footprint. And let me tell you something, this isn't all about being woke. Okay. There's nothing woke about this. It's about being awakened. It's about being awakened to the fact that, we're really, over the years and decades and hundreds of years, we have just been destroying everything around us. And I mean, pretty much humans are parasites, but I mean, there's a bunch of us that want to get down there and we want to repair what's going on. And when I first moved into the house, this house was a beautiful house. It's still a beautiful house. I got a beautiful front yard. I've got a backyard that it's almost a show place. I don't have any grass in my backyard anymore, but that's another reason why there's a reason why I don't have that. But I mean, my front yard, beautiful grass, it's a little straggly now because I haven't been doing, what other people were doing to it before I moved in, which was like putting fertilizer on it and chemicals on it to make it green and all that stuff. And it's because I want to get my property back into that place where that soil is good, that you could grow anything in that soil. And I mean, you could go out to, the Home Depot, the big box stores, and you can plant seeds and you can give them the Miracle Grow, and you could give them all kinds of chemicals and stuff, but you are actually just leaching everything out of your soil. And when push comes to shove, you're not going to be able to grow a thing after a while. And that really bothers me. Some of the other stuff that we're doing, it's just like, trying to figure out how we're in the middle of a drought here in California. Well, how do we deal with the drought? Well, we can collect rainwater. We can be more resourceful at that. And like I said, it has nothing to do with being woke or I actually want to decrease my carbon footprint, but I want to decrease my carbon footprint while increasing the quality of life that I have here at home. And I think that's what permaculture and homesteading and prepping is all about. So let's jump into it. What is permaculture? Well, permaculture is, according to permaculturenews.org, permaculture integrates land, resources, people, and environment through mutually beneficial synergies, imitating the no waste closed loop systems seen in diverse natural systems. Permaculture studies and applies holistic solutions that are applicable in rural and urban contexts at any scale. It is a multidisciplinary toolbox, including agriculture, water harvesting, hydrology, energy, natural building, forestry, waste management, animal systems, aquaculture, appropriate technology, economics, and community development. Let me tell you something. When I talk about permaculture, think about this. Think about the forest. Think about a lot of people that don't. I just went through Yosemite. Okay. And, so Yosemite has fires. There's a whole bunch of tourists there and all kinds of crap, and all kinds of things going on, cars driving through there. It's just a great big tourist trap. But I mean, Yosemite is so big. Okay. When you think about it, there's a lot of places in the Yosemite that really haven't been touched by human hands. And when you go out into those forests that haven't been touched by human hands, let me tell you what's going on. They don't worry about whether it's going to rain tomorrow or whether it's going to snow in the winter, whether it's going to be hot or whatever. It has an ecosystem, and that ecosystem has been naturally fortified by the things that happen directly in nature. And what permaculture is, and like I said before, I'm going to highlight this. Permaculture is a study that applies holistic solutions that are applicable in rural and urban contexts at any scale. It's a multidisciplinary toolbox. It's a multidisciplinary toolbox in a way that teach you how to make sure that your land gets back to the way it was, or as close to the way it was before they built on it. And, it's like I said, you go out here, and I live in Gilroy, California, and we have agriculture areas here, and I see them constantly, they plow under something, they cover it up with plastic or do whatever they have to do. They gas it, they put insecticides on it and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's really terrible what they do to their land, because when they're done with the land, whether it be agriculture, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be anything, as careful as we are with the ecology here, it still strips the land of everything that it's good for. And it takes decades and decades and decades to rebuild that. And that's what permaculture is that we're kind of rebuild. We're going to get back to basics. I'm going to try to teach you what I already know, and what Jack and Paul Wheaton actually, Jack Spirko and Paul Wheaton actually teach every single day, either on their podcast or on their websites. And I'm just really happy that I'm able to do something like that for you. So also, I'm a homesteader. So what is homesteading? Well, at the easyhomestead.com says it's a word with 1,000 different definitions, depending on who you ask. But when it comes down to it, there's only one formal definition: a lifestyle of self-sufficiency that is characterized by sustenance agriculture, home preservation of foodstuffs, and it may or may not involve the small-scale production of textiles, clothing, craft furs for household use for sale. If you were with us at the old Weathered Soul podcast, me and Dougie called ourselves Damn Yankees. And when we called ourselves Damn Yankees, it was an affectionate term of saying that we're almost mini hoarders. I mean, I really don't throw a whole lot of things away. And if I do throw anything away, I throw it in my compost bin or I throw it in my yard waste. And my yard waste is usually for my raw materials, my meats and stuff that the Gilroy says that they wanted in the yard waste. That's fine. I'll put some yard waste that I really can't, some of the stuff that I really can't use when I cut down stuff around here in my backyard or front yard, I put that in the yard waste. But for the most part, anything that I take out from my land, I put in my compost bin or I put in my mulch barrel. And, what I'm trying to say is that we kind of do a recycling thing a lot. I try not to throw too many things away. We have a recycle system where we got to put away our millions of Amazon boxes all the time. But what we're doing here is we're just trying to recycle and reuse everything that we have here, just to either cultivate the land or make money. I mean, basically, my wife, she takes stuff that she buys and she fashions it, and she's a great wreath maker and centerpiece maker. She does that and that's what she does for a living. She makes those things, and it's fantastic that she does that because it's a really cool thing that she does. But we also use things off of our property. We've had some pallets and stuff that we use for planters. I've got a pallet. I use 4 pallets, put them together. I use it for a compost bin. I mean, we just don't throw things away because those things right now are hard to come by. I mean, if you go out, we got supply chain issues, guys. And when we have supply chain issues, you got to look back and see what you've got in store and what you've got in your own self to be able to do things. I got a whole shed full of tools and hardware that I've been collecting for years. I mean, I really don't need to go to the hardware store. And if I do, I'm usually stomping my feet all the way there with a couple dollars in my hand. But I mean, that's what homesteading is all about, is to be self-sufficient. Try to be self-sufficient enough to where you can collect food, you can can food, you can do textiles, you can do different kind of things that can enhance your community. You can barter back and forth with your neighbors. I got a neighbor across the street from mine, Chris and Ray, and we barter back, or we trade stuff back and forth. I trade vegetables for other vegetables, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's what we need to get back to as a community, to be able to be involved in our community and be able to know your neighbor, just to go out and say hi to your neighbor and see what they're doing, and not being nosy enough, just be saying that, hey, we're here and this is what we have to offer. So, and also we're preppers. And what is prepping? Well, prepping, according to superprepper.com, the dictionary defined prepping as the action or processes of preparing something or preparing for something. And with additional definitions of the practice of making active preparations for a possible catastrophic disaster emergency, typically by stockpiling food, ammunition, and other supplies. Well, a couple of years ago, if you talked about preppers, you talked about a whole bunch of crazy people that were, getting ready to, had thousands of guns and millions of things, of ammunition we were gonna take on the government. Let me tell you, if the government wants to come in and take you, they're gonna take you. There's not enough guns. There's not enough freaking bullets that anybody has that they're gonna hold off the government if they want what you want. But to me, prepping means is that we have to be prepared for something that might happen here. I have to worry, not worry about earthquakes, but I have to be concerned about earthquakes. That's a real danger that we have here. I have to have myself prepared for what happens if we have a major earthquake and power goes down for a couple of days before it gets restored, or I don't have food, that I can rely on, or water that I can rely on. Well, because I'm prepping now, I do have that. And it's just a wonderful feeling to know that I have gained some prepper experience by these 2 gentlemen, Jack Spirko and Paul Wheaton, in order to be able to survive at least for a couple of weeks on my own if I had to. And that means, Jack has a great comment that everything you have, one is none and two is one. And if you don't have two of everything, and I know it's hard sometimes to store some stuff, but if you don't have two of everything, one is none, because when that one's gone, you don't have another thing. And if you're in the middle of a crisis or something and you can't get that, then you're out. I mean, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to take some of your wares or whatever and try to barter with a friend to get what you need. And once you get into that community of prepping, horticulture, and homesteading, you'll develop a community that you can call people or you can know people and you can go by there and go like, hey, I got this, what do you need? I need something like this, and sometimes, they'll just give it to you, but sometimes, you'll need to barter. But that's what the three kind of pillars that I'm looking at right now is what we're going for. And that's kind of what this whole podcast is going to be about. It's going to be about permaculture. It's going to be about homesteading. It's going to be about prepping, but it's also going to be about other things like you've seen before. I'm into Bitcoin. I'm into being financially dependent, which means getting out of debt. So you're going to be hearing more and more of guests that we have there, back and forth on these podcasts. So sometimes it'll be about permaculture, homesteading, and prepping, and other times it'll be other subjects. Excuse me. So what I've done today is, like I said, I'm redoing a whole podcast that I did Sunday, which we went through these two videos that I did, and I want to share them with you because these are some of the things that I've learned so far off of these two gentlemen, Paul Wheaton and Jack Spirko, and they just really helped me out a lot. And one of the things, excuse me, that I wanted to share with you was I have a spot in my yard that's total shade. In fact, I've got a whole kind of section of my yard that is total shade. And it's been bugging me because I like to use every part of my yard for something. If I can't feed off of it, it needs to be useful for something. But there's this one spot that I have right outside my back door. Total shade all the time. When I first moved in, there's this great big hydrangeas bush there. Well, I got a couple dogs, and I found out the hydrangeas bush is really not good for dogs if they start eating the leaves and stuff. So we got all freaked out and we pulled it out. And ever since then, we had a barbecue there. Well, I got tired of having the barbecue there because really the barbecue wasn't that functional there. I've had it's the area has served multi-purpose for a couple of different things, but now I'm going to use it as a grow center for some lettuces and some things like that. And I really want to share this video with you. I'm going to cut in and out of it, which I tried to do last Sunday, and it didn't work out very well, but maybe today it will work out. So let's jump right into it, and I'm going to add it to the stream, and I will just narrate it as we go, stop and get out of it here and there. Okay, hold on. Well, here's another little project that I'm doing, and it happens to be in the shadiest part of my yard. And right here where this barrel is, has been outside my backyard for a while. It's been in total sun, and it grew lettuce all year. So what I wanted to do is, this area has always been a shady area. It's been a cool little area that I have, but it's right outside my back door here, which is behind me, which is called Zone 1. And you always want to have Zone 1 available to you for where you grow all those things that you use all the time. So what a perfect place to do. I'm going to cut it right there real quick, because when I'm talking about Zone 1, what Jack Spirko says is Zone 1 is that when you go out to your land, whether it be out your back door, whether it be out to your barn, whether it be wherever, the first thing you go into Zone 1. And Zone 1 should be that place where you're able to just go in and have a couple of crops that you use daily, whether it be herbs or lettuces or whatever, but something very simple that you could just go out your front door. It's like kind of having a planter box in your bay window in your kitchen or something like that, a little herb garden here and there. But it's foodstuffs that you can use, during those times, not just during the times of need, but every day. And it's just very simple. You go outside your yard every day, and there you are. You got your lettuce. You can cut your lettuce and grab your carrots or whatever you need to, your sages and your herbs and things. And it's just a very simple process. And if you have the idea, or if you have the room to have a Zone 1, I would encourage you to absolutely do that, because it's really beneficial. Lettuce. And from what I hear, lettuce does relatively good in shady parts of your yard. So this gets total shade. We're going to see what's happening. I have no idea how this is going to work out, but what we're going to do is we're going to plant these various lettuces that I've started. This one is a romaine lettuce. I've got this little wavy lettuce back here, this little salad bowl lettuce that my wife loves. And this is all different types of lettuces here, a salad bowl type lettuce. And this one here is a kale. So I'm going to be putting the kale right here in front. I'll put this, I'll put that romaine back here, and then populate the rest of it in between and keep it watered. We'll see what happens there. But this is what I'm going to do, and I'll show you the end result once I get everything all planted up. So there we go. I've got my lettuces all populated in there, where my romaine's here, my kale's going to be here, all my salad green lettuces are going to be around. And I'm going to do a little thing for my wife because she loves these carrots, and my dogs love carrots. I love carrots too. Everybody loves carrots. Gotta love carrots. Those carrots go good in your salads and stuff. And oh man, if you like diced carrots sautéed with butter and kind of caramelized, oh man, they're really good. So I'm going to take these carrot seeds and I'm going to populate them around and try to get these things to grow up without, because you can't start these in pots. I mean, you probably can, but I haven't heard that it's been very successful for anybody to do anything about, growing carrots and then transplanting them after you're done. And these little seeds right here, these So Easies, they're all right, I guess. I don't particularly like them, but my wife bought them, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put them in there anyway. And I always put my seeds like right on the top here, and then I'll push them down in the soil. I'm going to stop right there and just kind of do a comment right here. If you can notice in there, there's a lot of room, and lettuce really doesn't take up a lot of room. I mean, you can grow a lot of lettuce in a very small area. And right here, what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying this out just to make sure that it would be beneficial enough for me to grow some lettuce and get enough harvest out of it. When I had this barrel right here that you see right there out in the sun, we had lettuce all year until it bolted. And we had so much lettuce that we had to give it away. And it's just amazing how much lettuce that you can get out of one plant. And one of the things that you have to do with lettuce is like any other plant that yields fruit or leaves or anything like that. You're not going to get any more leaves unless you cut the new leaves off. So in about, I don't know, probably another week or two, I'll start harvesting some of the lettuce out of here. But I'm also going to be planting more seed. I'm going to be planting more lettuce seed in there, and I might start them in my shed. I might not. I'm going to try some seed out here, see if it propagates, and if it doesn't, then I'll rely on the seedlings that I have out in my shed. But you can grow carrots and lettuce at the same time, radishes, anything else that you can think of. As far as lettuces and stuff that can grow in the shade, for sure you can grow it here, and it seems to be growing pretty well right now. Take them out and give them a little room to grow. Hopefully they'll all come up, and my wife will have a nice little garden here where she can have all her little carrots. Dogs can have carrots, and everybody can have carrots, and everybody will be happy. Because if you have a happy wife, you have a happy life, guys. For all you guys out there that are wondering how to keep your wife happy, grow her some carrots. That's what I do. I grow her what she wants and what she likes. And carrot tops are really good too. I don't know if you guys have ever had carrot tops before, but they are really good. And I think that's all I'm going to grow for right now. We can save these for another 3 weeks. After these start showing up, I'll put some more in there, and then we'll have a constant growing of carrots while the other stuff is taking place. And then you just go ahead and you just push those down right there in the soil. Push them down about a 1/2 inch. That's the way they were supposed to be sown. You can pretty much gauge a 1/2 inch. A lot of you guys know that. Hey, one more thing about carrots I want to tell you about is that carrots love the cold. When these carrots mature, which is probably going to be about another, I'd say, a good 2 months before they get good enough to where I can start checking them and stuff. But let me tell you, when that first frost comes, these carrots, for some reason, the cold snaps them into the sugar usage, and the sugars get into those carrots, man, and they taste so great. So this is one of the best winter crops that I've ever grown before, because I've grown them during the fall a couple of times, more in the sunlight. And we're, like I said, we're trying these without sun, and they're starting to come up. But yeah, if you want to grow something that grows really well in the wintertime and really gets tasty after frost, this is one to do. And I'm in zone 9A, which is in Gilroy, California, so we don't get a freeze or anything like that, but we do get a frost every once in a while. And let me tell you, it benefits some of those things like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and stuff like that. Even those kind of like that first frost. But but yeah, you push these all in. Boom, 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 boom. Some of them will come up, some of them won't. You got old seed, it won't come up. But I truly believe that everything is relative, and if you just take care of your stuff, keep some water on them, even in this California heat that we've had, just keeping yourself aligned with nature, getting your hands in the soil. In fact, all this soil that you're seeing right here, guys, is soil that I made, and I've been working on the soil for 12 years, and it's done me good. So there we go, we're all planted up. I'm just going to sprinkle this with water. I wouldn't suggest using your hose yet to sprinkle this off. Just let it go ahead and set up. Use a water bucket and then kind of lightly go ahead and do your watering around it for at least a day or two. Let the soil settle down. Let the lettuces and everything kind of root in the soil here, and then you can be a little bit more aggressive with your water. But other than that, they're here for the year, and I'll keep you updated on how the growth is. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, well, that was my part that I wanted to show you about the total shade planter box that I'm doing with lettuces and carrots. And I want to show you a picture that I took just yesterday. These I planted on the 17th. I think it was the 17th. Somewhere. It's about 2 weeks ago that I planted these, and today is the 27th. So it's been a good 10 to 15 days since I planted these. And I'm going to show you the picture that I took of this pot just on Sunday. And look at that right there. That is amazing right there. See how much these have grown. I lost one over here. One of the lettuces didn't quite take it. It just for some reason, not everything is going to grow. That's just the way things are. But as I took a closer look, I went in there, and there's those carrots. Those carrots are coming up, and I'm going to have carrots in about probably about 2 months. I'm going to have some nice carrots. And then as I check in with you guys, in a month or two, I'll even have more lettuces in here, because I will be putting in more lettuces in between these carrots and stuff. And then there's a couple of weeds I'll have to pull out of here. I keep up on those every couple of days. I'll go in there. So I don't like the weeds getting up too high. And some of them might be lettuces, but I'm not taking any chances, because I know where my lettuces were grown. So that is kind of where we were with that. So very successful so far as I'm concerned. I water them about every 4 days or so, because it's in the shade. It's not gonna dry out like something that's out in the middle of the sun all day. Although the air does pretty much dry it out. One thing about container planting is that you really do have to water it more than you would like if you're in your yard and just doing kind of like a raised bed or direct soil planting. I think that that pots and stuff, they actually dry out more because you have less surface area and you got less depth and you're in a controlled environment. So just make sure that you know that when you do that, that your planters are going to need they're going to need food too, because one of the things that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to give us some plant food. So go out there and get yourself a good, like, natural organic plant food. I use the Job's organic, pretty much a bone meal type feed that I use, and it seems to go pretty well. I try to stay away from the Miracle Grows, although I do use it as a seed starter. I will use the singles, and sometimes I will take Miracle Grow like once or twice during a growing season, and give them a jolt of that. It's really got a lot of salt in it, so I mean it's really not good, especially this year because our water started having a little more salts in it, more chlorines in it. And if you could use rainwater or anything else that you catch around your house, or even if you can fill up some buckets and let them sit for a day or two, just to let that chlorine gas out of it, your plants are going to love you a lot more for that. But yeah, I got one more video to show you, and this is another one that's been that I learned from Jack Spirko, and actually Paul Wheaton does these wicking beds and stuff like that too. But this is not quite, it's kind of a wicking bed, aquaponics, hydroponics type thing. I don't know what you call it. I call it pondotronics because I actually did this in my pond, and I've never done this before. I've heard about it. I'm going to try to grow I think it's a broccoli. Yes, it's a broccoli in my pond, in a planter in my pond, and I'm going to show you that right now. Here we go. Well, good morning, my followers and my fellow weathered souls. How you guys doing? What a peaceful little scene that we got going on here, right? This is my backyard waterfall that dumps into my pond, and as you can see, I have about a 300-gallon pond here, and I have put like 20 feeders in there that have been going at it all summer. Got a nice little ecosystem going on here. To attempt to do with this pond is to do a little aquaponics. And those of you who don't know what aquaponics is that we're going to use this pond water right there. We're going to use this pond water in this whole little ecosystem that I got going on here, and we're going to put a pot right on top of that cinder block right there, and we're going to attempt to grow some broccoli throughout the winter time and see what goes on. I've never done this before. I've done a little bit of research on it. It's actually one of those things that I want to do, and I want to try to understand, and I'm going to be doing all kinds of research on it as we go through, because it's a real fun thing to do. And you know me, I always like to figure out how things go and how things grow. So let me take you on and get you all started out to what we're doing here, okay? So anyway, said pond or waterfall, some little bit of what do you call circulation with water, so the water stays not stagnant. Some fish that develop all the nitrogen, eat the food and all that stuff. A little aeration here to keep the pond aerated. And this pond's been going strong, pretty good. And then, of course, I sunk a cinder block down just below the surface. And I'm pretty good at keeping the water level up on this. So as we have a little bit of evaporation, I usually keep the water level up between the 1 and 2 inches that it falls, every 2 weeks. So I would encourage you that if you have any type of outside situation where you have enough place to put a water feature, put a water feature in. Because one thing that I really love about this water feature, not only because it's going to be able to feed me, but it is so peaceful to go out in my backyard on a Saturday or Sunday morning or a Friday night or whenever I'm having a fire pit or drinking coffee. Man, you hear that water, and water is part of the elements that keep us alive, and kind of fire, water, and clouds, and all that stuff is peaceful, and it just really de-stresses you. And if you have a chance to put in any kind of water feature, even if it's just an artificial fountain, I would just suggest that you do it. It's fantastic. I pretty much keep up on that, and now that I'm doing this system, I'm definitely going to have to keep an eye on it and make sure that it stays at least within a 1-inch level constant to keep my soil medium wet and my roots going. So here we go. The next part I'm going to be at is where we're going to go do the potting of my seedlings. So we'll be right back. All right. Well, I am back, and we are want to show you. Disclaimer. What you saw right there is exactly what you saw right there. It is Miracle-Gro soil. I actually got this soil from Costco, the big box store. They have a great big sale on Miracle-Gro organic mulches and stuff like that every year. I don't really like to use the potting soil all that much because the 6-month feed stuff, but their actual natural soils and stuff like that, their organic stuff, which is just basically just compost and mulch, is really, really good stuff, and it doesn't really have that many additives and stuff to it. In fact, this stuff doesn't have any additives to it, and so I trust it very much in what I'm doing. I didn't use any of my soil in here, although probably by the end of the time that I actually this next week that I'm doing this show right now, I've got some compost and some mulch that I'm going to be putting on top of it to go ahead and feed it. So just want to let you have a little disclaimer there about what you saw. What we can do here in this is actually my planting area right here. I've got my garden. Some of you have seen my garden that is still going. I've got it all shaded off because we've had a heat wave here, and man, it's been to the plants. So I've been trying to water them, trying to keep them going. I've got some of the stuff covered up and ready for next year. But hey, we're here about aquaponics right now. Here's the pot that I got here. It's about a 12-inch pot. Oops, excuse me. It's about a 12-inch pot, pretty deep. I had put some old broken up terracotta and pots that have broken over the years down at the bottom to do a little drainage, and we're going to be using some perlite and some potting mix on top of it, and that's where we're gonna do. And basically what I have learned through Jack Spirko is that we use the perlite, and yes, Jack, I hate money. I bought the small bag. But the only reason that I bought the small bag is because I really don't know if I'm going to be doing this on a large scale as I learn how to do this, or whether I'm going to just make this trial, see what goes on over the winter. But Jack would have you buy the big 50, 100 pound bags or whatever, because this perlite stuff is not cheap in the small bags like what I bought here. But as you get more in quantity, of course, it gets cheaper. Here's the last of my potting soil mix that I bought from Costco. It's an all right mix, to tell you the truth, but I've had better stuff, so we'll see what goes on. I like to be making my own soil, of course. In my garden right now, I've got that box covered right now with some soil, but I've been working on for like 12 years, and it kind of lost its nitrogen, so I am fixing that as we speak. So give me a second, and I will get set up here with what we're doing. All right, well, I'm back, and we're going to get started here. So what I'm going to do is open up my bag of perlite, and as you see, I wanted to show you here that the water level's been coming up to about here as I sink this into the pond. So I've got my drainage here, and then the perlite should act as my moisture control. So I'm going to pour a good generous amount of perlite down at the bottom here, real good right there. Let that settle in, because basically the stuff is got a lot of dust in it. So we're gonna let it settle through, and that's gonna be how my moisture wicks up from the bottom of the pot. Now it'll wick up anyways because the soil's in there, and it's constantly wants to wick up through the drier layers and get stuff wet above it. But the perlite, I think, is going to be, or at least is what Jack tells me, is that it's going to be beneficial in using a material like this for aquaponics. So we're just going to bring that down here like so. We'll put that away. See, I didn't use very much of that. I used about maybe a quarter bag. And then we will take our moisture control potting mix anyway, and then we will put that in there. So let's go. Throw that potting mix in there. I like to break up the clumps, make sure that it's all nice and unclumpy. For some reason, I think that the roots can't get through the clumpiness, and don't worry about going down to the bottom of the perlite if you have some perlite in there. As you notice, if you buy like the Miracle-Gro potting soil, which is the worst soil around, but I want to make a disclaimer right there. Yeah, I do kind of take the clumps and stuff out of my soil, but also I also use peat pots. And when you use peat pots, what I've discovered from after the growing season, sometimes I'll take some stuff up, is that the peat pot actually takes a long time to actually compost itself. So a lot of times when I'm pulling my plants and stuff, the peat pot is still actually around the root ball, or the roots have grown through the peat box. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes there's some plants sometimes that, you know, if you don't keep them wet enough, it can't get through there. So if you have some stunted plants or anything like that, sometimes what you'll have to do is you'll have to take that peat pot off of that root clump, and you're not going to hurt your plant, you know, if you do that. But I prefer to keep them on. There's some things that I don't keep them on, like my tomatoes. When I plant my tomatoes and I put them in a peat pot, what I'll do before I transplant them into a larger vessel to harden them up, I'll take the peat pot off from around them and then plant them into the larger pot before I actually plant them out into my soil. So just something to keep in mind. When you're in a pinch and you need potting soil, I guess it's okay. But the regular Miracle-Gro has a lot of perlite in it, so you don't need it so much. And we're going to go ahead and put a little bit more in here, because I like my soil up to be near the top, and then the soil will settle out as it actually settles. It gets wet and it settles down, and we'll probably come back in a week or two and put a little bit more soil on the top. But actually, this stuff that I did get from Miracle-Gro is actually pretty good. I used it and mixed it in with some of my soil in my garden, and it seemed to decompose very well. And but it doesn't provide a lot of nitrogen, so you have to do a little bit of maintenance on your beds every year to keep those nitrogen up, because as you grow and grow and grow every year, you take all those nutrients and stuff out of your soil. I happen to have a good soil base, but I grow so much stuff that the nitrogen gets depleted. So as you saw in back of me, I have that bed covered to where, I've got compost and chicken poop and everything under there, and covered that up, and I won't uncover that until March, and then I'll be ready to test that soil and make sure that I have sufficient nitrogen to be able to plant my plants and have them have vigorous growth, at least until then, until I have to adjust them back down to where I don't put as much nitrogen in there, so that it can fruit up and flower and do everything it's supposed to be. So anyway, so here's the basis of it. I'm going to go grab the seedlings, and I will be right back. So here are my seedlings that I started for my winter crops, and it's been hot, so I've had these in the shed,
under lights the whole time, and they're pretty moist. They're actually moist right now. But I've got some zucchinis, some cucumber here, some romaine lettuce in the back. Here's some salad bowl lettuce. Here's a kale, and right here, this is the broccoli. This is what I'm going to be putting in this pot. So I'm going to be pulling that out here in just a second. So one thing that I want to do note about growing seedlings in like your shed or greenhouse or things like that with artificial light is that the seedlings always want to grow up and try to reach the light. So sometimes they get a little spindly here, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out here, and then I'm going to bury it probably halfway in to make sure that when it does start growing up and it does start getting some growth on it, that it gets a nice stalk on the bottom of it. Because sometimes when I've done these, like this one here, this kale, when I go ahead and put this into one of my pots that I'm waiting for now, is that I will actually bury it to about here, and that way it has a good stock to go with. So
this is super important, guys. I want to stop right there. This is super important, because really, when you grow under artificial light, it is just artificial. And two things that I do in my shed: number one, they got artificial light, but I also have a fan going on, and I have a fan going on that's actually blowing on them, because what I want to do with my plants is I want to harden them as best as possible. So what happens when you get a plant that has a pretty good big stem on it and it's real thin, a lot of times what'll happen is you'll put it in your garden. If you just regularly plant it, just to the top of your peat pot right there, what'll happen is sometimes it'll just fall over and die. It doesn't matter how much water you give it, doesn't matter anything. It just doesn't have that sustainability or the strength in that seedling to stay up. So what I do is I actually put my seedlings halfway down, and this is very important for tomatoes. You have to, when you transplant your tomatoes, I don't care how tall they are. They could be 12 inches tall. You're going to want to bury those things 6 inches into the ground so that you have a nice stalk that's going to come out, and that's going to be, it's going to be strong enough to hold all the fruit or the leaves or anything else that you're growing that's on top of it. So just be aware of that if you're growing inside, that you're starting these things under artificial light, they're going to be a little spindly. And if you add a fan in there that blows on them, you're going to give them a little bit of hardness that you can't give them, when you're growing them outside. So this is another thing that I'll be going through in the spring with you guys when I do my spring seedlings. I do them a lot different than a lot of people do. That's only because I live in Gilroy, California, that I can do this, because usually you can't do this in other climates. But we'll continue on.
Show you how I do it. These little bare spots here is where my seeds didn't take, and that's unfortunate. I really hate it, because seed is expensive and it's time consuming to do, and I hate when things don't propagate and come out. It bugs me when that happens. So we do have this one thing of broccoli here. I'll be putting that back into my compost bin so that I can use it. I'll throw this right here, put this down over here, and then we will proceed to make our bed just deep enough to bury this thing down enough to where I'm going to have a nice little stalk under it. And here we go. We'll bury that down. See, there's only about an inch of that plant left on the top. I will pat it down a little bit. It's wet underneath there, and this soil is pretty moist, so I don't think that I'm going to pre-water it to start the wicking. I think the wicking will happen naturally. And now it is time for us to go put it in the garden, or put it in the pond. So, all right, well, we're back, and you see that I have my pot here with my seedling, and I also have the cinder block that I'm going to put it back on top of, and we're just going to bury this thing in there, and we're going to let it go. So it's nice and sturdy. As you can see, I probably have, let's see, I have about up to here of water. So that's a good 2-3 inches of water that I'm going to be working with on the bottom. And that should be sufficient enough for the wicking action to take place and give that a little growth. If I come out here tonight, later on today, and still the top of it is dry, I might splash it with a little water just to kind of help the wicking action go. But after that, I don't think I'm going to do anything. So do I know what I'm doing? Do I understand what's going on with this whole system? No, but I'm hoping that, the fish with the ecosystem that they have created inside the pond, the circulation that I have with the waterfall, the pump, and the aeration should be enough to get us going pretty well. As far as what goes on when we get colder and the water gets colder, I don't know. We're gonna go through that and jump that hoop when we get there. But hopefully I'll have a nice established plant in a couple of weeks, and we'll be reporting back to you. So I just wanted to thank you guys for listening in on this podcast, or this little short video that I got. It's not really that. I really do appreciate you guys being here. This is Bruce, aka The Weathered Soul, on my new homesteading podcast, and I hope you enjoyed what I did here. And I'll give you a check-in here in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what's going on. All right. So you guys have a great day, and we'll see you later. Bye. All right. Well, that was the end of that video, but I want to show you another picture that I took on Sunday of that exact same plant that I have in the pond. And here it is right there. There's my broccoli. It's probably grown about 1.5 inches since that probably 2-week period that I've had it in there, and it keeps going strong. So I mean, the soil is wet, which in turn I think is okay. We're gonna find out whether I get any kind of root rot or anything like that. Like I said, I've never done anything like this in my life, so this is just an actual test to see what I can do. There's all kinds of other things that you can grow in your pond: watercress, chestnut, stuff like that it will actually take the wetness. I'm just hoping that the broccoli will work out. But some other things that I'm doing around my pond, around my areas, I'm starting to take the garden out. And as we end the show today, I want to show you just a couple of things that I'm doing around my garden that are going to help my garden out for next season, when I'm really seriously going to start getting started on this homesteading, prepping, and this permaculture thing that I'm doing. But I've been working on this garden for like 12 years now, and one of the things that I'm doing is I'm actually doing some cover cropping. So in this box right here where I have my peppers, I actually took this box down, had a bunch of cucumbers that really didn't do too good this year, so I decided to take it down early, and all I did is I just planted a whole bunch of snow peas. And what I hear about peas is that they will help fix your soil and introduce nitrogen into the soil. So that's one thing that I'm doing also, is doing 2 different types. I'm doing covering my boxes with some mulch and chicken poop in them, and then cover them with the tarp. And another thing I'm doing with this box is I'm actually going to test out the cover crop method. I've done cover crop before with oats. It seemed to work out pretty good. Let's try peas this year and find out where it goes. Then I also have this is what I use my pallets for. I make these compost bins, and this one the one just to the right there, that's real small, that one is my oldest box. And as you can tell, it was as high as this new box here, but over the years when I've used it, it is actually, the wood has decomposed under it, and I've had to lower it down. But this is my new box, and as you can see, I've got it filled up with all my organic stuff that I've taken out of my kitchen. No meat, no cooked stuff, just stuff out of my garden. You can see some of the peat pots in there. Mostly it's just kitchen scraps and stuff like that I can put in there. Old leaves and things that I mix in there to keep it all heated up. And this is what they call cold compost. Cold composting, and you can do it a couple of different ways, and I just prefer to do it this way. It's a little more work, but I get really fine results out of this.
This is also one of the situations that I'm doing that Jack has showed me how to do. And right under this is my 6x6 raised bed. And underneath that, I have what came out of that box, because I just started that compost bin. So there was a whole bunch of compost in that bin. I took it out and I put it on top of this box along with some chicken poop, and then I just covered it with the tarp. And I haven't moved this tarp, and I will not move this tarp until March, because I'm letting all that stuff kind of decompose and get into that box, and let the worm casings and everything else take its do its work for them. I also like to harvest seeds. So these are some of my tomatoes that I took out of my garden that I'm letting rot down. I let my tomatoes rot down. I'll teach you guys how to do this probably the next show or show after, how to really do and get seeds out of some of your heirloom stuff. Basically, it's just letting them rot down and dry out until you can harvest the seed. Then you just catalog the seed and you have it for next year. Also, if you remember, in the seedling things, you saw all these little. I had a couple of different squashes and cucumbers. I've got 2 left. I think this one, the one in the back there, is a crookneck, and the one in the front is a zucchini. I'm not sure. I'll find out. But that is what I got going on. And I want to just say, you know what? Jack is a jerk, and Paul is a pompous. And I love these 2 guys, because Jack is a jerk. He's the one that made me get into homesteading and permaculture. And Paul, he's just pompous, because you know what? He tells it like it is. And when you see his videos at permies.com, all the show notes, as a matter of fact, are in the show notes underneath this video. Or if you're watching this or listening to this on Apple Podcasts or your podcast catcher, you can find the show notes there too, because it's a real pleasure to be able to be mentored by these guys, listening to these guys every day. It's something that I love to do, something that I'm learning to do, something that is just needs to be done if you want to be more self-sufficient, if you want to be prepped for something emergency that might come by, or if you're just looking to learn about nature, about organics, about homesteading, about anything like that. I really appreciate you guys being here. So if you're listening to this or looking at this on the YouTubes, please hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit the like button, and hit the little bell reminder button, so you'll be reminded the next time when I come on here and I talk about the stuff that's all about Weathered Soul. And I want to thank you guys for being here. Next time I see you, I'll be back with a guest or a really interesting subject for you. So you guys have a great night, and thank you much. We'll see you later. Bye.